Perfect. Here goes. So let's start. Welcome to Target Markets Niche Marketing Part 2. This is a second week of a 3-week series. And yeah, it's a webinar to help you really type your target, and it's all about focus. And it's brought to you by Daniel Italiano at Oracle RMS Insurance. He's the sponsor and makes this happen, so you don't have to pay. And by the Vaughan Business Enterprise Center, and then that's my company there. So Daniel is not able to make it today with us, but he's a commercial insurance broker with Oracle RMS. He's a big supporter of small business, and actually we met at a Vaughan Business Enterprise Center conference about 4 years ago, and he and I have worked together on a few entrepreneurship initiatives. For those that don't know me, I have a background in training and coaching entrepreneurs, and was working with the City of Toronto running an entrepreneur training program, and I would bring Daniel in to talk about insurance for small business owners, and he did a great job, and just is a class act, and has a real passion for small business. So if you need insurance, he's the guy to go to. I want to welcome Lindsay Davidson. Lindsay's the small business consultant at the Vaughan Business Enterprise Center. And Lindsay, take it away. What do you want to share today about VBEC and what's coming up, and what are some plans for 2020? Oh, you just got cut off there.
Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I don't know what, I guess my microphone got muted. Thank you everyone for joining, and welcome to part 2. In terms of what's coming up, so we don't have too much more in terms of programming for 2019 as the weather gets worse and everyone gets busier. It's not necessarily the best time, but I'm happy that you're all able to join part 2. Part 3 is next Wednesday, and that's the grand finale of this 3-part webinar series. Just a couple of things to keep note of. In the new year, there will be more York Mastermind, peer-to-peer networking events, and late December, early January, keep your eyes peeled on vaughan.ca/business events for our schedule of events, so office hours, workshops, things like that, coming up in 2020. And then just so everyone's aware, registration is open for Vaughan Business Expo, the 18th annual Vaughan Business Expo presented by BMO. It's taking place on February 11th, 2020 at the Terrace Banquet Center, and this year's a little bit different, but it's a really exciting kind of a business-to-business trade show, and then there's opportunities to get access to experts through office hours that are taking place throughout the day. So if you're interested, you can find that also at vaughan.ca/business events, and enjoy.
Thanks for this, and yeah, it sounds like some exciting plans for 2020. So what we're talking about is doing a full exploration into why you need a niche. We're talking some marketing concepts. We did a little bit of who's your ideal client, understanding your industry, ways to be different, and how niching really can pay big dividends. And so welcome back to week 2, and let's do a little mini review. We talked a little bit about who your ideal client is, and that's really important for you to kind of start to think of, like, who do I really like to work with? It could be a sector. We talked about industry sectors, whether you were B2B or B2C, or you're in a wholesale type business. So who's your ideal client, and who do you like to deal with? And if it's B2B, it could be a certain industry sector that you really have sort of an affinity for, a knowledge of, an understanding of, maybe even contacts in, and you know how they work, and you know that what you bring helps them be even better. Or it could be a group of people, right? So it could be, you have a big target market that you're calling on, but you want to sort of drill down that market so that you focus on maybe 2 or 3 segments within that market. And we talked about that a little bit last week. And then once you identify sort of who your ideal client is, you know, what makes them ideal? You know, like, what are you looking for in a client? You know, one of the things I look for is, do they value me? Do they respond? Do we have a good symbiotic relationship where I want to help them be better and they want to help me? And or do they have the budget? Do they have a need? Have I identified that need? Are they open to, you know, a new supplier or a new vendor, right? So really important to start to think of, you know, writing down some items as to what makes that individual or client ideal. What are you looking for? Because, you know, we all have those, what we call PETA clients, which is those pain in the asses. Sorry. And they're not a lot of fun to deal with because, you know, they drain us. Usually a lot more work goes into them, and less results. I remember when I was in a much different field, I used to be in the promotional products premium incentive field, and I had a few clients that the quote file was about that thick. The order file was about that thick. So I kind of had to let them go because the work and the effort and the energy put into it was not worth the reward. So yeah, sometimes you have to make those tough decisions. The other thing too, welcome Michelle and welcome Jamie. The other thing too to be mindful of is who's got, you know, is there a niche that you really like to serve? Is there a certain segment of the population that you grew with, or a business, or, you know, we talked about that. Who's got the greatest needs for your service? Really get clear as to the characteristics of your ideal client and understand the problems and challenges your clients face and how do you solve them, right? How do you help them get results? And if you have success stories to build on, boy, does that ever help. So let's get to more into this week's material. Do get a pen and paper because there is some work for you to work on. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of research. And I like this quote. This is by Werner von Braun. He says, research is what I'm doing when I don't know what I'm doing. So to know is to grow. And you really do want to, you know, understand your market, you know, really do your homework. I'd even go so far as polling them once in a while. After you do work with a client, check in. How did we do? Were you happy? If you weren't 100% happy, what do we have to do to make you happy, right? And be open to criticism. And when you respond to constructive criticism from your client and you show them that, hey, you know what? We listened and we acted. That will go so far in your relationship with your client in terms of solidifying that relationship and showing that you're listening and showing that your client's voice matters. So really do that homework, do the research, understand who your ideal client is, know as much as you can about them, know, you know, again, what their issues and challenges are and how you can help them and help them get results. So let's continue. One of the cooler ways to connect with our ideal client is the power of discussion and the power of storytelling. So business has only two functions, marketing and innovation. I'm going to say three, sales. No sales, no business. That simple. And there's this, you know, philosophy that a colleague of mine, Tom St. Louis, taught me a long time ago. And he said, don't fall in love with yourself, fall in love with your customer. So, and to dovetail on that, don't market yourself, market your message. So you really want to hone your message so that it connects at a heart level with the people that need to hear it. Because the truth of the matter is, we can't do business with everybody. Not everybody is going to be our client. So I'm going to ask you, why is storytelling an important part of your marketing message and your sales and business development process? Why is storytelling an important part of connecting with your customer? Any ideas? Oh, we have a shy group today. You can write it down. Hannah.
You know what? I only stay quiet just to let someone else speak first.
Ah, you're sweet.
To give someone else an opportunity. Um, I would say that you know to say a story is that anybody can connect to a story, right? You can always be the protagonist. So you can put yourself in a story, right? So if you're trying to connect to something, so you can be the person in the story. So if you're trying to market something, um, as a person that's looking at an advertising, you can always, if it pertains to that person, you can look in an ad and say like, oh well, that could be me,
Right.
right? And that's the point.
Yeah. Perfect. Like, well said. And a couple of quotes I pointed out to kind of support what Hannah just said. And thank you, Hannah. Like, feel free to chime in.
Thank you.
We know that we can't be like our competitors, especially Shell and Petronas, but we can certainly be better than them in terms of execution, customer service, and the value proposition. So you really do have to know yourself. You have to know what you bring to the table. You have to know what differentiates you from those in your field and be able to discuss that and put it in the form of a story. And we're going to have you work on your core marketing story in a few moments. Or this is not a bookshop. This is a library where you become an annual member, or else you can come and just read. Comics, so it's a comic book shop. Comics are extremely expensive, so we cater to a niche audience, but we're offering something that's unique. So own your uniqueness. Know what makes you stand out. Own your passion. Own the thing that you really want to do. The gift you have. That I my colleague Evan Carmichael has a book about it. It's called Your One Word. Own your one word. If you see some of my marketing material, my one word is hashtag commitment. And then I expand on that. What does commitment mean? Well, hashtag commitment means a commitment to self first. And so that I can be a commitment, I can be good for my clients, right? So if we're not good for us, we can't be good for our clients, right? So really, and that hashtag commitment is about being of service as well. And I think Lindsay, knowing me a little bit, you probably agree. I hope. So storytelling is really important because it affects the brain. So when you're starting to tell stories, it affects the neurocoupling in the brain. It activates the part of the brain that allows the listener to turn the story in their own ideas and experience. So they're going to take ownership of your story. They're going to go, oh, I can relate. There's a mirroring factor. Listeners will not only experience the similar brain activity to each other, but also to the speaker as well. You telling your story. Dopamine. The brain releases dopamine into the system. And when it experiences an emotionally charged event, it will make it easier for the client or the listener to remember with greater accuracy. And you probably have heard stories too and went, oh my gosh, this person, I can't believe their story. You got it. And you probably shared it on social media, right? And it also affects the cortex activity of the brain. So when processing facts, figures, names, I don't know about you, I have a challenge with names. And facts and figures, well, a well told story can engage many additional areas, including the motor cortex. So people remember stories way more than they do facts, figures, and even a name. So stories that matter are usually around human interest stories in which real people did something, they learned something, and they grew in the process. And it might be customers, it might be your CEO, it might be a field sales rep who has learned to believe in the value of what he or she is selling. And if it's you that's doing the selling in your business, it's probably goes to the why of why you got into your business in the first place. Hannah, I'm going to single you out, Hannah, because last week you had a very compelling why. Your why was, as a young student of music, it was not a lot of fun,
Hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
you want to put fun and creativity and support and love. into how you teach music to young people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
And that's compelling.
Thank you.
Story is also the story that we tell ourselves about ourselves, or an employee that you might have tells him or herself. Story is what gives meaning to everything, both inside and outside the business world. Stories are memorable in the minds of others. I don't know if you do this, but you know, I'll take the TTC, especially if I'm working downtown, you know, to avoid traffic and parking costs. And you know, you're sitting across from somebody, and all of a sudden your mind kind of goes floaty, and you start making up a story about the person that you know is sitting across from you. So we do, you know, we do really live in story. And if these stories are lacking or depressing, then I don't care about your marketing strategy or tactics. It's not, you want to put your best foot forward to really market yourself and your company. So ultimately, the only way to be more successful is to be more human and connect to the right customer. Stories will connect us to our tribe and our community. So here are the keys to a good story. Is it a good news story? So we don't want depressing, like this is what happened. Oh my gosh, woe is me. We want a good news story. Is it a David and Goliath story? Does good overcome and win? Is it relevant to the times we live in, right? Is it tapping into the trends of the day? Does it help someone else or lift someone else up, even if it is only one person? Even if it's only one person. That's really important when you're marketing and you're selling, because we have this vision that we want to do business with as many people as possible. And it's like, no, you don't. You want to do business with good customers, your ideal customer. You want to do business with people you like, that like you. So just get a customer, one good customer at a time. Is your story newsworthy? Is it tapping into, you know, what's going on today, the challenges, our social and economic conditions that we're facing collectively? Is it newsworthy? Is it fun and intriguing? I'm going to add one more. I hate to say this, but is it sexy? Even in this, you know, day and age of, you know, that not maybe being as a priority, it still, you know, to some matters. And does your story solve a problem in the end? Does it solve a problem? Is there a beginning, a middle, and an end, a conclusion? So here's where I want you to get your pen and paper out and do some work with us today. And this is a great storytelling formula. And you might read this and go, oh yeah, that sounds familiar. So basically, it's going to be once upon a time, there was and that's you. There was a disgruntled music student, and I'm going to use you as an example. Every day she took music, but didn't enjoy it. And then one day she discovered there must be a new possibility. And because of that, she learned how to teach music and bring fun and joy and compassion to her teaching until finally she opened up her own music studio. And from that day forward, she's now teaching other young children to enjoy and appreciate music every step of the way. So that's your formula for telling your story. I just used an example. Thanks, Hannah. I think I owe you like $10.
Thank you so much.
Checks in the mail. Anyway, so this is a formula, and you probably go, well, this sounds familiar. Well, it is, because this is what they do in TED Talks a little bit, right? You've probably seen a TED Talks and go, oh, yeah, right? Only they elongate their story a little bit. This is also used in Disney movies. Once upon a time, there was a young girl, right? And she was looking for her prince. And every day she, you know, so it's the same formula for you to create your story. So what I want you to do is work on this. Take a few minutes and think about you. What was that pivotal time in your life that, you know, got you to go, oh, I'm going to do this, right? Because what you want to do is you want to share maybe your challenge or pain and how you overcame it and why you're doing what you're doing. And this is a great way to do it. So I'll just shut up now and let you work on this for a couple of minutes. And I want to hear some. Don't be shy today. You can even write them and I'll read them. Another minute on this? Okay, time's up. I'm going to show, I hope this works, a couple of videos, and they're all about storytelling. Oh, got some chat. Okay, Sue Seppa, thanks, Sue. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Sue. Every day she went to school and hated that she wasn't as smart as her sister and that teachers treated her like she was stupid. But then one day in 1993, Sue discovered the internet and instantly became addicted. Because of that, she became one of the first webmasters in Canada, one of the first female webmasters, too, in Canada until 1995 when she opened up um, her first brand agency, began teaching people. Everyone, even those who didn't pick it up fast. From that day forward, she became known as the web coach. And although she sold the branding agency 25 years later, she's still going strong and making a difference. Wow, I love it. Sue, that's great. Thank you. Linda Nichols writes, once upon a time, there was a successful sales manager who worked for very large companies. And every day she worked very hard and made those companies lots of money. But then one day the decision was made to part ways. Because of that, this manager was out of work, but not out of passion and not out of opportunities. Until one day, this manager decided to take the reins and go into business for herself and put the effort into making herself successful and satisfying her customers. And from that day forward, this manager enjoys her new life. And while it is sometimes scary, she is happy. Oh, I love it. That's great. Okay, I think, is there anyone else? Nope. Okay, so way to go. Well done. Let's see if these videos work, because these are all about storytelling. So here's the first one. And let me know if you can hear them. Here it comes. Can you see this?
No, it's a separate window probably.
Oh, okay.
Things are getting right. Child, things are gonna get easier.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Things are getting right.
I'm gonna go back.
Child, things are gonna get easier. Child, things are getting right. Child, things are gonna get easier. Child, things are getting right. Someday, get it together and we'll get it on down. Someday, when your life is much lighter. Someday, walk in the race and we'll get up on stone. Someday, when the world is much brighter. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier.
So what was the story there? What did you think? What was the story?
Your volume is so much lower now.
Okay. How about now?
A little bit better.
Okay. What was the story there?
I think overcoming adversity.
Yeah.
Everybody ready for a 5,
What?
4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm going to pause that. Sorry. Okay. So overcoming adversity. What else?
As well as poverty and any kind of disability or, struggle that a kid is going through in order to succeed as an athlete.
Right. Yeah. And the love of a mom.
Yeah.
Right. Michelle writes, living your dream.
Yeah.
Sue, I hope you can hear me now. I'm going to play one more little commercial, and we'll talk about the story here. The importance of living your dream despite obstacles, Michelle writes. All right. So you're okay. My volume is good now. Thanks, Paula. All right. Here's an ad for GoPro, the video cam that's pretty cool. Watch this. And we'll talk about the story here.
Everybody ready for a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it go!
What was the story there? With GoPro, what was what about, like, what did you think the story was there?
Definitely living an exciting life.
Yes, and capturing that excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else for anybody else? Any other theories or? Oh, good. We have somebody in the chat room. Being daring, yeah, being daring and living life to the fullest and capturing those moments, right? And with the GoPro cam, that you can do that. You should see all their ads on YouTube. They're quite beautifully shot. They're beautifully constructed. But watch now. Start to take note of advertisers who tell a story and see how it impacts you, and see if it actually impacts you to maybe buy from them, right? So really important to look at that. Um,
You know, there was actually a really good ad that I recently saw because
yeah,
it's the holidays. Best Buy did a really good advertising that I noticed now that you kind of mentioned that, where they did it in reverse, where it's usually, it's one way where somebody gives a gift and then the person opens a gift and then like, oh, thank you so much. But it was the opposite. They did it the other way around, where they did where everything was backwards. They watched as the kid was opening the present, then it went, video was backwards, the present was being rewrapped, then they was putting it back into the closet, then they went back, and then like, where was it from? And then it was from Best Buy, and then what was in the package? Oh, it was the headphones. And then they found out, like, so you watch the kid open it up, and then it's like really happy, and then you see like the parent hide it, and then you see where he bought it from, and then he's so happy to like buy it for his daughter. And so that's the story. So it's like the whole process of buying a gift for like the daughter, um and it's like a nice moment, and it's a different kind of take on buying a Christmas gift, right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, good for you. I like that you're taking note. So I really encourage you all to start taking note, especially this time of year. There's a lot
Yeah.
of storytelling in these commercials, right? There's a nice one I saw. I actually complained about it on Facebook uh, because it came on, I think, for November 1st, the day after Halloween. I went, oh no, the first Christmas ad, and it's like what are they? It's way too early, but it's for Tim Hortons, and it's
Mm.
this young girl. No, Swiss Chalet, and it's this young girl who's out having the festive special, and she brings a festive special to the security guard, I think at her mom or dad's office, and kind of makes him feel special and loved, and gets that Lindt chocolate that you get with your festive special. So that's a really like a heartwarming special of
Mm.
connection and meaning. So start to work. So this week, work on your story, practice it, see if it jives with people, because you might be pretty surprised, pleasantly, I hope. So we're talking about niche marketing. So you got to work it, right? What are some activities you can take in order to attract your niche? And one of them is start to story tell. You can use your story, um, when you speak. You can use your story when you introduce yourself at a networking event. If you use that at a networking event, the right people are going to come up to you after and want to work with you, right? But what are some other activities that you might be able to do work on to attract your ideal customer to you? Any ideas? Got a quiet group here. One thing is, okay, we got chat room going. Go where they are, Sue. Right, network. Uh, join clubs. Team up, joint venture with other people that are talking to your niche market, your ideal customer, right? And that's one way. So go where they are, definitely. And then there's different activities you can take in order to connect with them. And you need, in this day and age, you need to be connecting with people 9 to 12 times just to get in the door and maybe get, a chance to see them and do business. It takes that much effort in order to connect with people. Why? Because we're bombarded with information. We have the attention span of less than 9 seconds, which is equivalent to a goldfish. That's a VBEC study that was done, and Microsoft as well was involved in that study. So you want to start to engage your customers and get their interest. So what are you going to say that's going to get them interested, right? And then you want to work on your marketing is about attracting, engaging them, keeping them coming back to you, making sure they're happy, and then, care for them after the sale is made. That's a really important point, is to care for your customers after a sale is made, because you might be missing some really good business opportunities in terms of add-on sales. And we'll get to that in a few moments. We'll show you a little strategy could really pay big dividends and bring more money in your pocket without you spending a lot of money. So the power of a niche. First of all, it helps you focus your sales and marketing strategy, so you're not all over everywhere. It's kind of the spray or the spray theory of marketing, which is you're doing everything everywhere, or you're not going to get very far. I always equate that to, I don't know if anybody here is old enough but remembers watching these westerns on usually on CHCH channel 11 on Saturdays, but Saturdays they have these old movies on during the day on CHCH, and in the westerns they'd have the drunken cowboy, right? And the drunken cowboy would flail around and trying to punch somebody and land a punch, and he'd miss, and then he'd get so tired of doing all this that he would just fall on the floor drunk. Whereas the cowboy would come in, or the sheriff would come in, and he had his wits about him, and all he had to do was go right, one punch on the nose, and that was it. He was the hero, right? And that's kind of what niche marketing is all about. You don't want to be flailing around everywhere, because you're going to get really tired really fast and probably drop on the floor. Or you can be really direct and just take one punch and job's done. So really, power of a niche helps you focus your marketing and sales strategies. Also, you become known in the category. You become what's known as a specialist, like Sue. I happen to know Sue, and Sue is the web coach. She even called herself the web coach. There's going to be less time wasted in terms of your marketing and sales. Yeah, and Sue, okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, you're welcome, Sue. Less time wasted in terms of your marketing sales activity, a more clear-cut direction, and you become the specialist when you niche, which is kind of nice, right? And believe me, people pay for specialists. Here's some good niche examples. What's the niche here? It's pretty clear, right? And why does this work? So this is a networking group for mompreneurs, and even their name says exactly what they do. If you can get that good at niching, use it in your name. So this is an organization that focuses on helping moms in business, mompreneurs, and they deliver the services and the products and the workshops and the networking events that help moms in business. I actually met them, Lindsay, for your knowledge. You don't have to comment, but I actually met mompreneurs at one of your business expo events maybe about 5 years ago in February, and they had a booth. So it was a nice woman that had headed up the Vaughan chapter. There's another niche example, the food coach. Again, right in the name, you get exactly what she does quite easily. This helps her stand out. Oh, the food coach. She must do exactly what she says. The science of nutrition meets the art of nourishment. And she helps you, take off weight, be healthier, and live a more, nutritious life, right? The food coach. That's my friend Sabia, who, talking about stories, I'll just go real quick. She just moved, she owned a cafe with her husband. They sold it. It was in the Cape Danforth area. They sold it, and they drove out west, and they're getting an Airstream, and they're going to live in the Airstream. Then they moved out west from Toronto. So a new life. Being in the food business, a little bit tough, to say the least. Here's another niche. This is student car share. This is the guy that owned this. His name is Michael Lende, Lende. And when he launched this, he was filling a need in the market, which your niche should. Your business should fill needs and answer challenges and solve problems. And the problem and the challenge he uncovered was that students didn't have a car share service like Zipcar or some of the others that are around. And so he launched student car share. And so students on campus could, get a car, do their grocery shopping, or go to IKEA, or run errands, or go see mom and dad, and then come back and drop the car off. Right? They didn't have to have the extra financial burden of owning a car. They could just tap into student car share. Now, what was really good about this was that was like, again, the niche market was right in the wording. But he also made money not only from the short-term car rentals, but he made money with sponsorship dollars. So Pizza would kick in money and slices to students, and believe me, students like the pizza, if you return the car neat and tidy. If you did that, you got 2 free slices. He did a joint venture with TELUS to not text and drive, a safety program. So TELUS kicked in money as well, sponsorship dollars, to encourage safety. And that if you returned your car safely and you didn't text and drive, you would get a discount on TELUS. So he made money. And then here, student coupon services, deals on wheels. So he made money not only from the service and the rentals itself, but also with sponsorship. So that's the power of a good niche. And then my colleague Tad Hargrave out of Edmonton, he focuses, his company, it's called Marketing for Hippies, that's his website, and he's a marketing consultant for green and conscious business owners. So healers, people that are into the healing arts like massage therapy, Reiki, psychotherapy, and they need to market, but they got to be really mindful of how they do it. And the other thing is they really love the craft of what they do, the art of what they do. If they're a nutritionist or a massage therapist, they like doing that, but they don't like doing the sales and marketing. And so he's identified that as a problem and says, you can, right here, you can be a better marketer and attract all the clients you can handle without sacrificing your integrity, right? So he's talking to that market. He understands how they think, what they do, what they want, and what their challenge is, and he's filling a really big void in that market. So there's a really clear, compelling niche there. So research, do your market research. Don't shy away from doing your market research. Understand who are your prospective customers. What characteristics do they have? What makes them different? What are their buying habits? Maybe you know the projected market size for your product or service, or where you're going to sell your product or service, or where are your customers? Where are they hanging out? As Sue said earlier, go to where they are, right? Reach them at their level. Talk to them. Where can you reach them? What are some of the issues and challenges they face, and how do you solve them? What are they maybe reading, watching, and doing that you need to maybe be advertising or promoting or getting a little free exposure in? What do they like to do? Socially. Maybe you join the golf club. There's a great story. I remember seeing Jack Canfield speak. He's the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul, or co-author, but he also wrote a book called The 64 Success Principles, and he's quite, big on YouTube and webinars and teleseminars. Matter of fact, he was just here, I think, in October, at the end of October, speaking. Anyway, he shares a story of Acura car dealership during the height of that recession back in 2008. And they noticed that people weren't coming into the dealership to look at new Acuras. This is like October. If you remember that 2008 real estate debacle started in sort of September, October, November. And so they were kind of going, well, what do we do? Like, where do we go? What should, people aren't coming in, right? And so what they did, they decided to go where their customers were. And they called some of the high-end golf courses in the area and offered this. Said, hey, would you be open to us showcasing our cars at your golf course for the month of October and November? And if anybody will have a contest, if anybody hits a hole in one, they'll win a free car. And so one of the golf courses said yes. And what happened was, there they were on the weekends promoting Acura and their dealership. People were taking test drives, the golfers. They were starting to get interested in Acuras and to leasing and buying them. Not only that, I think they had that contest and somebody won. So they got a whole whack of media exposure. And it was an amazing story, right? So they drove sales not by waiting around in the showroom hoping that people will come in, but they went to where their customers were. And sometimes we got to do that. We got to be a little bit creative and aggressive, and not aggressive in a bad way or a heavy-handed way, but aggressive in terms of just thinking differently and doing things differently, right? So tap into what they like to do. So Acura car buyers, for sure they like to golf, right? And then again, stock up on information about your clients so you know and you can talk when you talk to them that you're talking in a way that matters to them. Okay, any questions? Some resources that might help. We're kind of done for today. Just some resources that might help. A book on positioning by Al Rise and Jack Trout, The Importance of Positioning. I still like the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, why most businesses don't work and what to do about it. You can get these at the library. These are really, really smart business books, even though they were written a little while ago. Positioning is all about how to be seen and heard in an overcrowded marketplace. And you got to admit, there is more noise, more clutter, more messaging coming at us. And the way to really cut through that is to niche yourself, is to storytell, is to find your point of differentiation, is to go to where your customers are, is to be creative and outside the box a little bit, right? And Positioning by Trout and Rise to Madison Avenue Advertising Gurus is a really solid book, even years later. And the E-Myth is really solid. And another book, this book came out, oh man, in the late 80s by Harvey McKay. And it's just common sense for your life and business. And it's called How to Swim with the Sharks Without Getting Eaten Alive. And I really, really recommend these three as some good reads. Again, even though they're a little older, they make sense. This is where you can get a hold of me if you need the slides or the material. You can also connect with Lindsay. We have somebody in the chat room. Love the ebook. Thanks, Michelle. Any last minute questions, concerns? Lindsay, do you have any questions you want or examples maybe of clients you worked with that, where they really tapped into their strengths and their core story and their niche? Anything you might want to share? No?
Sometimes I have some concerns with parents that come to me. They sign up for music lessons. I have one parent in particular that has an issue that I would love to resolve with her, because it's no longer really an issue about money. It's more for, I would love for her daughter to just continue taking lessons because she is talented, and I want to make it work for her, but she just hasn't gotten back to me yet. And I want to make it the most inviting kind of space for her daughter to continue for both, because she takes both voice and piano. She originally was taking 45 minutes of voice lessons and half an hour of piano. And her mom messaged me suddenly a day ago saying, can we just do voice for 45 minutes? And I understood from our conversation that it's really just because it's tight on money. And so I wanted to lower the cost by lowering it down to just half an hour for each. But she's also not replying to me. So it makes me think, and also another issue is because she's not on top of her practicing. and not making it her responsibility to practice. So I don't want to lose her as a client, and I want the girl to also have more of an opportunity to practice, and for her not to lose the opportunity to study music. What can I do to help the student to still have this opportunity to study music?
That's a great question. Anybody have any ideas? I'm going to throw it to the room first if you want to chat. By all means, share them. You know, Hannah, what comes to my mind is maybe sourcing foundations and or companies or business people that love music, and maybe you start like a fund, or even a crowdfunding fund for students like this who have talent, who have an appreciation of music, but money is an issue. So you can go into that fund and say, look, I think, you know, money shouldn't be an issue. We have a fund. Would you like to access it? So that's something I would do is go outside and look for third party support to support some of the young kids who have like loads of talent and a passion, but funding is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that idea?
Yeah, I would love to be able to do that. I'm gonna have to do some research just because, like, I do believe that she has a single family income. So, I can understand that that's one of the reasons. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, what I would do, like if it was me, I'd kind of like get a program or whatever, or find out who are some of the people that support the arts in the city, like the Opera Company or um, Roy Thompson Hall, the TSO, and find out what are some of the companies and organizations that sponsor that, and would they be open to, you know, providing some monies that you'll keep in a fund or, you know, a trust for cases like this.
Okay.
Food for thought. Some other people kicked in and said, ask your client to describe a perfect scenario. It may be money, but it might be the student that just doesn't enjoy it. So yeah, maybe you need to get closer to the client. And then question for paying clients, would you like to donate 10% to fund for children who can't afford it, right? So maybe ask some of your current clients if they'd like to donate to a fund. And Michelle writes, that's to Sutcliffe and Linda Nicholson. Thank you both. And Michelle writes, have you considered offering a sliding scale or fees for students? So a few other answers. Does that help you?
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that for sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So that does wrap. Any other questions, comments? So that does wrap this week. Next week we got more juicy material coming at you, and we'll be back here next week 9:30 till 10:30. And just I wish you all a good week. If you need to email me or you have questions, that's where you connect with me. By all means, tap into Daniel Italiano and Lindsay Davidson at the Bond Business Enterprise Center. Thank you, Lena. I hope I'm pronouncing your name, Lena Roll. So I'm saying Lena. I might be wrong, but thank you. And I'm glad you'll be back next week. And Paula, thank you again. And everybody, just have a really beautiful week and much success and do well. Yeah, let's just make it a great week ahead.